Welcome back to another episode on the EcoPod. Join us as we dive into the inspirational journey of Richard Lukaj, a distinguished Wall Street investment banker whose passion for advocacy, philanthropy, and leadership is making a profound impact both at home and abroad. He graduated from NYU's business school and embarked on a remarkable Wall Street career, executing corporate finance transactions exceeding $100 billion in value worldwide. Richard's story is one of resilience, determination, and an unwavering commitment to giving back. I'd like to start out first with you telling us a little bit about your childhood and what it was like growing up in an Albanian household.
I don't know that my story is particularly unique in that way. Our parents, I guess, along with me, immigrated to the U.S. I grew up in a family that worked very hard. Apologies for that. They put in hard days of labor to support and provide for not only their immediate family, but in many cases for relatives back home as well, which in many regards was their reason for emigrating in the first place. And so I think that type of childhood does ingrain a fair amount of discipline and a fair amount of self-motivation and maybe a dose of guilt and responsibility as well to actually make those investments or those sacrifices of your prior generations mean something for the future as well. So that did provide a bit of inspiration, perhaps for me and my siblings, as I'm sure it has done for you and many of our mutual friends as well.
Yeah, it was probably a lot more difficult back then too.
I would say different back then. I mean, I think in some respects the challengers were more blunt, but I would say that the challenges of today are considerable as well. Just different, and the sophistication level that's required and the speed with which things move, also the finesse in many arenas that is required, the level of education that's required is a growing phenomenon and a strong correlation to success today, much more so than days of old where most people toiled physically and it was mostly about self-discipline and dedication than it was about all of the skills that you've amassed to be able to deliver on success.
For sure. Any challenges you faced while growing up as an Albanian in a different cultural environment?
Yeah, I mean, look, we all face challenges. I think my challenges were many layered. I grew up in a pretty impoverished area and pretty violent area of New York City. And that had many challenges, not just for an Albanian, but for anyone who lived there. That was our lot in life, given where we started in this country. And as an Albanian, I think we had an extra layer because we were perhaps a bit more misunderstood. We had obviously a close-knit family values, and very strong traditions, which sometimes clashed with society that was unfamiliar with that. And over the course of time, however, I think our Albanian heritage actually turned into an asset. Helped us get through some trials and tribulations and build our own version of the American dream, as many in our community have experienced as well.
What is American dream to you?
American dream, for most Albanians, I think, that came to this country were fleeing something. They were either fleeing a repressive communist regime that broke the spirit and backs of people in one of the most brutal communist experiments in Europe, and in former Yugoslavia, where some folks came from, there was a variant of apartheid that was going on, where Albanians were, um, in some cases, not treated even humanely, or and widely discriminated against. And so the opportunity for personal development and success really was torn from the potential of young people. My parents were no exception to that. My father was largely denied an education after the elementary school level because that would have required travel, which um, the system at the time discouraged, and my mother likewise, for a variety of reasons, was experiencing the same thing, and both ultimately sought a better future, largely for their children, because by the time they were in their 20s, their lot in life was sort of defined, and they chose to travel initially to Italy, where I was born, and over time to the U.S., where I grew up.
You see people studying abroad, like students from Albania coming in here studying abroad, they always talk about how there's a lack of opportunity in Albania in terms of education.
Look, I think there's many layers to that discussion. I think the opportunity around education certainly does exist. There are people who have obviously gotten themselves trained, educated, and are playing on the world stage, not the least of which is Mira Murati, who obviously got an Albanian education and has made breakthroughs in artificial intelligence that is defining the world as we know it today.
Yeah.
And so I think there are also countless examples of entrepreneurs that have started everything from IT businesses, renewable energy companies, to wide varieties of new resort concepts. And while we may not agree with or love every one of those examples, I think many of them are big strides forward, led by people who persevered against whatever the challenges were. I would also say that there are also many examples of folks who went through the existing infrastructure of education and thrived. They're advanced mathematicians, they're advanced engineers, they're very capable people. Albania and the region, candidly, has a challenge to retain these talents because they're hotly coveted everywhere in the world. In some cases, actually, even Albanian companies that are based in Germany are soliciting and hiring, young talents from the region, and employing them in Germany and Switzerland and London and various other places as well, and in the U.S. for that matter. Today, I'm thrilled to see big construction businesses here in New York, for example, that are leveraging architects in Albania, or engineers, or back office processing capabilities that are supporting building maintenance and other technologies that are sort of venue specific. I think there's actually a lot to be encouraged by, and I think the unemployment levels of young people with the right talents, skills, and education for the modern world are impressive, and the salary rates at which they are rising is also impressive. So there's a lot of good news on the current scene, with better days ahead. The question really is ultimately, why is the messaging so negative? And I think it's a marvel to me that the media doesn't cover so much of the good developments that are visible and tangible every day, that would provide hope and inspire entrepreneurship and inspire people to do better and more interesting things. That's a plausible question, and one that goes to, like, who owns these media channels and what are they aspiring to accomplish with their platforms, and maybe there's room and opportunity for a positive light in the midst of all the dark light that our current media is projecting. On the education front itself, I think young people are also demanding better, and families are demanding better. There are impressive private schools from the elementary school level my dog is excited. I was saying that there's impressive private opportunities from the earliest education in Kosovo and Albania and other places in the region. There's, I think, a shining beacon in the AUK or RIT Kosovo experience over the last couple of decades that has grown from a school that was somewhat of an experiment because an accredited American education did not exist in the region before that. There's going to be a new Albanian university that is equivalent, in fact, married to AUK as well, so that these products or these demanding requirements of the next generation are such that that opportunity comes to them as well. That also hopefully is a contest that is forged between some of these private alternatives that also put pressure on the public institutions to provide a higher grade of education universally as well, because these private institutions will not be adequate to solve for the full student body of these nations. And so, from our vantage point, I think the correlation between educational development and success, ultimately, not just for the individual but for society at large, in these countries of ours, is paramount. And so, if we can put everybody's priorities on such things, that is a strategic choice. You think about the success of countries around the world that have prioritized education, and there are many, even small nations like ours, that have grown disproportionately, not just at the national level, but at the individual sort of GDP per capita level, to impressive performance. And so I implore on all the political elites that they prioritize education so that every generation meets its potential, and generations to come promise even a better future for the homeland.
I know Mina Chunmuda is doing a great job with that. I saw that. I think once a year she has a fully funded scholarship for a student in rural areas in Albania to bring them to the city and get educated. So that's amazing. And that could definitely make a huge difference in giving young people opportunities that they might not otherwise have. And I also saw that I think it's amazing how you've taken initiative on a project renovating an elementary school in Albania. I believe it's your parents' village. Can you
yeah. Together with some of our friends and neighbors, we managed to rebuild and renovate the property where my parents and I think that experience was a good one. And although it took way too long and it was entirely too difficult, we learned that still today in the region there's great difficulty in promoting a brighter future for people, particularly in these remote areas where they don't always have the political weight or even the vision for how important education is. So it took almost 10 years to do what could have been done in 3 or 4 months if we had a white flag reception. You mentioned Amina's project. There are many Albanian families now that are in this group of folks that provide scholarship opportunities. In fact, the Bibere family has a multi-million-dollar scholarship fund for students seeking an education, and a higher education, very specifically. And they have programs within the region and external to the region. There's also in Kosovo a program that was a byproduct of the sale of the American bank there, where all the proceeds from that sale were retained as essentially Kosovo Academic Education Fund. And that money is used for college students that have graduated and are pursuing higher ed degrees, doctorates and masters in countries around the world. And I encourage people to seek out those programs as possible opportunities. Also, I would say that our family, the Tsami family, and countless others that care about education in the region have donated to scholarship funds that are available at AUK and will be available at AUA, as we'll call it. These are the RIT programs in the region. There's also programs like Troyatona and others for students from Montenegro in particular. Our family has contributed to 50 or so scholarships a year for students from the regions, mostly rural regions, that seek an education at higher ed institutions in the region. So there's a lot of do-gooders out there, really in particular promoting education, in many cases also promoting women's issues, health issues, and women's leadership type initiatives as well. As a society, we won't fare terribly well if we don't have a society that is inclusive of all the people in our society. And I think this generation, we've made a lot of progress in that regard. But I think the more successful we are, the more people like Amira Narati and others will also continue to shine brightly on behalf of our society and community as a whole.
Yeah, awesome. This is actually, I have never heard of those foundations that you just mentioned, and I get all my Albanian resources either from LinkedIn or Instagram or like just researching. So that's great that you mentioned those. I'll definitely try to market those a little bit better so people know that things like that exist out there in the world.
Well, look, your podcast, I think, in some respects, is going to help fill in some of the void in that regard. I mean, in candor, my critique goes heavily towards our media more broadly. I'm always bewildered by how much negative news they find and choose to focus on, even among the spokespeople and others that tend to participate. But how little time they seem to find for educating and informing people about opportunities to excel and to progress and to advance yourself in a modern society in the region. Look, in some respects, the statistics tell you that the economy in Kosovo is growing at 2 to 3 times the rate of the United States. The economy in Albania is doing similar things. That is still with relatively high unemployment. And if these societies can figure out how to channel their potential, the opportunity set available to many in the region is quite extraordinary. And I would also encourage people who have degrees in education and opportunity to travel the region, because I think they'll be impressed to see that there are like-minded, high potential partners for either creating a business or growing a business or leading a company that can employ many and grow wealth and value and opportunity for the individuals as well as for the society at large. So I guess I would say, the investment in oneself is the greatest investment anybody can make.
Yeah.
And to the degree that they also invest in rediscovering their own world and society, they might find room and opportunity in a way that isn't visible by cursory review of media. I would also say that if you're a college age person, which may be some of your podcast people, take a semester abroad, go study in Pristina or study in Tirana, and take a summer and do the Original program, which is a completely free program for young people from their teens to the mid-20s that get paid for by donors like myself and others that make it possible for these young people to have a free trip to the region and discover all of the ancient history and cultural and economic opportunity sets in a way second to none. And so it's a complete immersion that is invaluable to folks that may seek at least to get a connection to their spiritual heritage and cultural heritage, and in many regards, it could be life-changing. I would say to somebody like you that there are some very good charitable organizations there's a group called the Action for Mothers and Children that has a wide variety of programs and campaigns, and they have a board of I would say very highly caring people, and many of them actually have healthcare backgrounds. The program was actually co-founded by a group of folks, including myself and a fellow named Dr. Strickler, who was the head of the medical department at Dartmouth University. And he was a great inspiration for making us all believe we could make a difference. And in particular, at the time, my wife and I had lost a child, and our way to maybe dedicate something to that experience was to contribute to the foundation of this organization. And that organization now has had over a decade of experience, and we have moved infant mortality in the region dramatically in that period of time. A big part of that has been through education and collaboration with and in some cases, even with the training and support, where we've brought talent from the region to train and get an education and graduate program degrees at Dartmouth to take back and build upon the institutions back home or collaborate with the institutions. That is a great example of how an American that doesn't have to move could be a big part of affecting change. And whether that's contributing to the governance and growth of an organization like that, fundraising and promoting, a big part of solving infant mortality is education. So anybody who can help produce content and information and materials, I would say, could be a contributor. And the degree of contribution you make depends on you and what you're available to do and contribute at that moment in time. And I don't mean this uniquely to you, but I would say to most Albanian Americans who want to find a way to engage and contribute, there's probably an organization that you might fit very well to do just that, whether the area is education, healthcare, as you mentioned. There, on the healthcare side, we have countless organizations that I think would welcome you. There's, specific programs around autism in Albania. There's also a variety of charitable initiatives around orphan children and so on and so on, elderly care, healthcare issues, poverty issues. You could find a way to engage if you desire to, undeniably and undoubtedly.
Okay, you can just take
Yes.
one small action, and that has meaning as well, and that can make a difference too. Small action.
And look, a lot of people taking those small actions makes a gigantic action, and sometimes your small action is what's needed to induce other small actions. And look, your Eagle Pod program is a small action, but itself might inspire you and or others to really blaze a trail for improvement, whether that's an improvement in media and messaging and communications or redirecting towards healthcare or other issues that are near and dear to your heart. And I applaud you for that, and hope this is just the beginning of something wonderful for you.
Oh, yes. Thank you. I appreciate that. Moving into your professional journey in investment banking, let's kind of talk about that. With over 20 years of experience, can you share what initially drew you to this field?
Yeah, it's over 30 years of experience
30
now.
years now.
Yeah, the years are
You need to
adding up.
update this stuff online.
Yeah, no, I think it's been a wonderful career. I've had room and opportunity to work with unbelievable minds, reinventing society as we know it. I've been involved in financing and helping grow and strategic activity around the technology sphere that has, in large measure, changed how we live on a daily basis. I started my professional career without any of the tools that we now have at our disposition, universally. Back in those days, there was no internet, there was no email, there was no certainly no texting, there was none of the tools that we take for granted today. Social media did not exist. What's that?
No TikTok.
Definitely no TikTok. And I would argue we don't need TikTok today either. But but in any event, I think look, I think the world is continuing to evolve, and I've been very fortunate to work with companies that are trying new things and trying to innovate and have been market share creators or takers, as the case may be. And my colleagues and I have been at the forefront of deploying infrastructure that enables many of the technologies that all of us use today, and hope to do that for many years to come, and remain excited about lots of new innovations and capabilities that will continue to shape how we all live and work. I had a magnificent experience growing up at Bear Stearns professionally. I was able to make my mark there, essentially build an entrepreneurial practice within a large firm. And so I had the confidence and trust of my colleagues and later partners that people just dream about. And I achieved a great deal at a very young age, and found myself in my early 30s, seeing myself, as a senior partner at the firm, and without a lot of new plateaus to look forward to. And I guess in a way, I got a bit addicted to the pace of growth I was experiencing professionally, and discovered that I wasn't as eager or excited about caretaking as I was about growing, building, and competing as an underdog. And so I decided to take a step out, and reevaluate what's next. And it's a weird thing to sort of walk away from a firm that you thought you'd spend your life in. My experience there was, beyond anything I could have dreamed about, and was delighted in some ways to have an opportunity for a fresh start, albeit it was scary too, because it wasn't obvious what that next chapter would hold for me. As misfortune would have it, around that time, my wife and I had a very difficult pregnancy with two twins, and one of which didn't make it. And
Sorry.
that was, yeah, thank you. I obviously had a fairly traumatic time, as my wife did as well. And it was hard to imagine having been working anywhere during that particular period. But I didn't start down the path of starting a new firm necessarily, but rather took an office with the thought being that something would reveal itself to me as the obvious next thing. And I also needed really to take my mind off of the emotional roller coaster I was on, mostly filled with anger at the time at how unfair the world was. And took me a little while to get to a place where I realized how grateful I should be, and the mixed blessing that had arrived, and to regain my composure, if you will. And before long, I also managed to re-engage with business opportunities that presented themselves, and I was feeding my intellectual curiosity and discovered that I still very much loved what I was doing for companies and with executives and talented entrepreneurs that were trying to reinvent the world. And I really wanted that still to be a part of my life, and decided to formalize a business. I recruited one of my old partners from my old firm, and we ultimately formalized together what became Bank Street later. We actually acquired a firm called Bank Street that gave us another catapult for growth as well. So today, the first half of this year, we executed just around 30 billion in transactions across our ecosystem. So it's a firm that has grown to become an institutional player in the category of businesses we work with.
That's crazy. Do you ever look back and
It
think
happens.
like I should not? Do you ever look back and think like I I never expected like we would get this big, or were you always confident that, you know, things would work in your favor in the long run?
I guess I've had a lifetime of, I guess, believing optimistically in tomorrow. I don't remember a time, even when we were, there was 11 of us living in a one bedroom apartment where I was unhappy. I remember thinking how lucky I was. I had play dates every day. My cousins and my siblings were omnipresent. I had family that was very loving, and even though we occasionally rubbed elbows a little sharply, I think. And but I recall how never did I think that tomorrow wasn't going to be better. I had that same exposure or experience academically. I put a lot of time and energy into doing my best, and that didn't always have to correlate with anyone else, but or while I was competitive, I didn't necessarily worry too much about where my ranking would be as I did about feeling okay with what I was doing. And and as life has it, that you come to places where you reevaluate and reconsider and pivot yourself and hopefully improve on yourself, because I remain very much a work in progress. And I think as all of us hopefully should reconcile, life is what you make it. And I try very hard to keep people in my life that are positive forces, that are in some ways or in many ways making my life richer. And I don't mean economically richer, but life is fleeting and short in many ways. And I think to the degree that folks get to spend their life with people that enrich their lives, that's the best life you can live. And some of that is going to be part of your professional life. Some of that hopefully will also be part of your family life. But there are many parts of that also include who you socialize with and what social impact you're trying to make. And I'm trying very hard at this stage in my life to break my life into those thirds and try to be as impactful as I can in all three spheres. I think we all have our own journeys to take and mistakes to make, and none of us are ever going to be perfect, and nor should we necessarily aspire to be. And I think imperfection is part of what makes us each unique and beautiful in our own ways. And I think to the degree that one is, evaluating oneself and wanting to grow and evolve, I think that's something that's important to do, but not to overdo, and to recognize that life is, life is a journey, and there are many things that will not go our way. The key is to learn from that, ideally not to repeat it, although we're also prone to repeat mistakes on occasion. So I think learning about oneself, learning to forgive oneself and move on and grow as well is something I've learned myself as part of making peace with the world around us and making peace with ourselves.
That was an amazing piece of advice.
Something.
So much wisdom in like a couple sentences.
Well, I think spoken by a person who's made many mistakes, and spoken by a person who continues to reconcile with the past and really trying to make the most of what remains of my future.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And speaking on advice, what advice would you give to young professionals interested in going into the investment banking field?
I would say the number one advice is, and this bodes well for particularly people in our community who grew up with the word BESA in their lives. Our business is foundationally based on trust. And if you are a shyster, you won't last. If you are a highly promotional salesperson, you won't last. if you don't have good work ethic with high trust, high values, integrity, respect for the rules and the law, you'll be a controversial and ultimately unsuccessful person. And to the degree you have those characteristics, however, it is a highly competitive arena, but there's plenty of room, and with good habits and good commitment, there's a great deal of success available. It is an industry that allows you to have an exposure to many companies across, a wide variety of industries and geographies and places in the world that enrich your life in many ways as well. It is a highly demanding profession, as you will serve many masters, and to be successful, you have to make great sacrifices. And I can't tell any young person that those sacrifices are worth it, because there are days I doubt it myself. And so I would say that it's easy to see the superficial layers, but I'll call it the tragedy of an investment banker is often not visible. And that's probably also true of certain people in the legal profession, or candidly any profession that is as demanding as these career paths are. That success in many respects is only compensation for the sacrifices and losses that those professionals often endure. And there are rarely any accidental successes in the category. That I'm grateful that you're making an effort to open up the eyes of others, and to be a bridge for that, I'll call it, flow of mentoring and information that hopefully inspires and calls people to action in many respects. And I admire that you are taking this initiative, and I'm hopeful that it also fulfills you in the ways that that inspired you to do it in the first place.
Yeah, thank you. Also, on my podcast, I have this fun section, rapid fire questions, where I ask our guests just like 10 fun questions. So are you ready?
Sure.
All right. Favorite place you've ever been to?
President.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Favorite book?
So many to choose from. That's a tough one. There's too many to think of. The one that recently comes to mind is I read a thoughtful piece. I can't remember the author, but it was about comparative religions in the modern times, and it was a good and refreshing reminder about what religions actually intend to project, and how different that may be from the kind of I'll call it religious nationalism that seems to be afoot on the world stage. And so that was particularly poignant during this period of turbulence that we're seeing on the world stage at the moment.
And then all-time favorite Albanian dish?
I love burek with tomatoes and onions, and it's kind of a southern Albanian version of burek, but I just absolutely could eat it until I'm sick.
Do you know how to make burek?
Sure, I've made it before.
Really?
Oh yeah. I made it for my parents once, and my mom was keeping a phone number for the nearest place to order dinner because she expected it to be a failure.
Oh, that's funny.
But to her surprise, it was quite good.
That's good. I remember my first burek was just not good because we make the I don't do you use the regular phyllo dough or the bought one?
We've done
Like the
both
bar.
actually.
Oh, okay.
We make our own most of the time, but we've done both
Yeah,
formats.
when
And
I
actually,
tried making
my
my own.
kids actually also make it now, so we've
Oh, no,
passed
yeah.
on
You just
the
it's a
tradition.
tradition you have to pass it down. Like you
Yeah.
um
In fact, my oldest daughter wrote her college essay about the layers of making burek, as in some ways reflecting the layers of her identity as well. And so it was a
oh, that's
beautiful,
beautiful. Oh,
yeah,
that's
it was a real
great.
beautiful way to also, and she wrapped in the layers of, learning how to make burek with her grandmother, and as the generations pass, how that also had, a relative effect to tying it to burek as well. But it's something that we've been blessed to have the opportunity to enjoy. I made a small investment actually in an Albanian food product business that is making some of the best Ivar, for example, and finding ingredients in the Albanian lands that we're hoping to project to those of us in the diaspora who love the Albanian flavors, but don't
Yes.
have a lot of ways to.
Bring some to the southern region.
Yeah, this is all going to be, it's all online. So something that you can
Okay.
also take advantage of. The brand is called Amez, Amez. The founder is one of the chefs from Noma, which was the top restaurant in the world, and he's the brainchild behind the product. And there's also a young lady in Italy who's started a company called Mezemer online as well, and that affords you wines and olive oils and all kinds of other products from the region that you could also buy online and enjoy in your own kitchens and home. And I think we'll see more of that as time goes on, because Albanian cuisine is actually quite special and something that hopefully we don't lose sight of. I would also say that we have an Albanian youth center in Greenwich, Connecticut that my kids actually were part of for a period of time, and they do, as one special day, all the children actually prepare a wide variety of traditional Albanian dishes, and their parents and loved ones come over for lunch, and the kids actually serve those dishes to their parents, having made them themselves. So it is a tradition. We're looking for many, many ways to inspire people to, and the owners of the restaurant that host this event are obviously Albanian, but they open up their entire restaurant to this particular day of experience, and it's really an unbelievable thing.
Yeah, beautiful. I'd love to attend one day, hopefully.
Sure. Actually, look up the Albanian Youth Center. They have a
Okay.
website and Instagram, and they obviously have a full web presence. And anytime your travels bring you to the New York area, I think you'd be welcome to come in, record, talk to the kids, see the program. I'm no longer on the board, but the board is going to higher heights, and it's run by a gentleman called George Jabia, who's currently chairing the board there, and has a group of professional staff and teachers that really do some special things there.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Um, Winter or summer?
I love them both. Although I like spring and fall even more. So I'm a four seasons person, so I definitely like the variety.
You enjoy all. If you weren't into banking, what would you be doing right now?
I think I'd probably be teaching or writing. Um, I think I've had a life that, in many ways, has taught me some things that might help people avoid some of my experiences over time.
Yeah. All right. What was the subject you excelled at most in school?
I'd say math and
Math.
science. Yeah,
I
I
figured
think I was a techie type, although I was also maybe surprisingly very artistic. I was into music and arts and painted and did a wide variety, sculpted. I did a wide variety of things, and I think I enjoyed that just as much. So um, I'm actually just as much seeking that type of exposure and participate in wide varieties of both performing and other artistic formats.
All right. What is your favorite hobby? What do you like to do outside of work to just relax?
Yeah, look, I'm blessed in that much of what I do with, clients that in many cases are my dearest friends as well. So I don't view work as a burden or something I do, as an imposition of some kind. It's very much an ingrained part of my lifestyle at this point. I do also enjoy being with friends, dialoguing about things, provoking each other to think about things that are priorities of our time. So, having social time with friends of wide varieties of professions and backgrounds, and also of different political spectrums or different religions, different spheres, as they also help me and perhaps all of us see the world a bit more clearly and understand it a bit better. So I do enjoy that social time with people. I probably socialize more than normal. I even do it in golf and other activities. Most of the things I do involve a high degree of socialization to it.
And then lastly, what is the last song you listened to?
Um, I'm trying to think what was on the radio just now before this call. I think actually it was Lucky Man. So just
Okay.
lucky. And maybe it's apropos to this interview.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you, Richard, for being on the Eagle Pod. You're such an inspiration. And as we wrap up today's episode, I want to thank all of you all for joining us and for being a part of this meaningful conversation. And so, yeah, until next time, stay connected, stay inspired, and let's continue to make a positive impact in this world.
Lorena, thank you for this opportunity, and I wish you great success with this platform, and hope to follow and see your inspiring work continue to grow.
All right. Thank you.